Lucian down, everyone's just being absolutely cycled out by this low ground and high ground pinch. Stano by himself, the difference maker here. He can land a big shot and change the course of fate for this low ground team. Reacher down though, no ceiling available for Debule and Vexy. Sky's the limit.
And for Debule and Vexy, they are just raining terror now onto these ultimate low ground layers here. Cheatin' and Pixie doing what they can to try and fight back, but the builds are running so low for both these teams.
Mantled up.
He's cheating with the mantle, but he can't close out. No, he does get the knock, but it's a 1v1 situation now, unfortunately. Poor Pixie, he's got to try and close it out without his duo.
Gonna be a 1v1 here. Has the slaps, can't keep moving. It's the Debule who has the zone though, and he gets some HP2 from the Siphon. Now, finally, a few more mats down, 2 left for Pixie. One more shot and he can still cover. Drops it and it's good. Pixie looks like he might have lost it, but he holds on with control. That steering wheel looking to go straight towards the top 9. A huge win for the team.
At the very last minute, it looked as though the way that zone was pulling, working in Pixie's favor, just barely managing to get to that front side of it. But the mantle run up there as well was a pretty crazy play to witness out of Cheat, and it looked like he just wanted to take matters into his own hands entirely. But a nice closeout finish there for Pixie. Knew that the 1v1, and can't help but think those slash splashes at the last minute definitely played a part there for helping him get ahead.
No, absolutely. I mean, being able to just know exactly what your duo has, being able to be that adaptable on the fly is huge. That is a messy game though for a majority of players who were playing in it. Looks like there were a lot of duos who had control. A lot of these guys, when they're moving inside zone, you think that your layer is free, you're changing one layer of elevation, you end up going down. What does that spell for the boards? I mean, we have to go to the desk to see.
And that might play into things as we take a look at the leaderboard. Guys, Levin, what are your thoughts before we get into that final game?
You know what? As much as that was messy, I think that was a classic EU game 5 type of game. Because they always seem to be messy, always seems to be a hiccup almost as we head into that game number 6. Cheating and Pixie, they won't be complaining though. A nice win from them. You know, the breacher on hype beneath them, right? They were able to just sort of chop people out at the final moments. Here, right, you see that that's what was part of that helped them to win this game in the end. Just being able to make sure they claim space here before hopping back up as well. I'll be real, when I look at Pixie and Cheating, I think to myself, this is a team that has different teams in the past have showed us that talent, but I've never seen things click, right? I've never seen the sort of ending I would have wanted to see from my bro.
Cool, calm, collected. Pixie in those last moments as well. In the 1v1 engagement from the first shot up above to jumping off as his builds got destroyed, kept tracking his opponent, landing that big shot to secure the VR. It looked great.
Let's see how great the leaderboard looks right now, because there'll be a lot of teams eyeing it up and saying, where are we sitting with one game to go? Of course, it's all said and done. We talk about last chance major, last chance game coming up, but here's the leaderboard. Not too much movement. I'm sure that a lot of teams will be relieved about that, Levin.
Yeah, but look how tight it is, man. 7th, 8th, 9th, 2 points in it, and then even Lucian Steno in 10th, 2 points away from that. It is gonna be manic going into that last game. Like it's oh wow, I'd be so scared if I was any of those teams there.
Oh yeah, even looking at Steno and Lucy in 10th place, just one placement off global championships, but also Janice Reason up in 7th place, bumped 4 placements up to get to where they are here with 182 points, but they cannot be feeling safe because they're just 2 points off of the qualifying range.
Yes, it's impressive, Levin. I mean, this is a team that we've seen popping off. It looks like they're starting to get to a position where it's guaranteed, but they still have got to pull out one last, big-time performance.
It's the Reason clutch. I'm saying it, right? If you've been around EU FortNite for a long time, there always used to be, back in Trio specifically, right? Reason would always just have a crazy clutch game where you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's one of the best players in the world. And I feel like we've activated that now. Towards the back end of the competition, Reason is just in his element. You're seeing all these limbs just going his way. It's the clutch time, and these guys are stepping up.
They got work to do, though. They still got a bit of work to do.
They have got work to do, and you're right. This is where you see you test the mettle of yourself and your duo here, Levin. We talk about, you know, clutch time. This is heavy drama at this stage, and if you're not, and we've got some teams that are just in touching distance of the top 9. You know, it's all still to play for. You've got to find that extra edge going into game number 6.
You do. I think it's not easy for any of those guys, right? Because you go into that game and you know there's no room for error. Because you don't want to leave it in another team's hands, right? You want to be able to be the team that is, you know, directing the pathway and setting your own history. Looking at the people just outside of that even, right? The 11th to 20th, 12th, Debut and Vexy moving way up after that really impressive game. They're another sneaker team that where, like, you know, they have a big game. A couple of those teams are in, slip up a bit. They very much have a chance.
Look, it's really so close right now, not just in the top 9, but like you said, on the second half of that leaderboard, 10th all the way to 15th, 16th, they are not far at all to being in qualifying range. One more game like the game Debut and Vexy had here from any of those duos is going to be enough to qualify them for the Global Championships. So you know, going into the last match, not only in the last qualifier, the last opportunity for Global Championships, but the last match in the last qualifier, you know that these players have to give it their all.
Oh man, let's take a look now at 10th place, Steno and Lucy. This is phenomenal as well, because you've got that 5-point jump and everybody above them looking right down at them, Levin.
Yeah, I think when you look at Steno and Lucia, they're definitely the kind of team where most people predicting their top 9s coming into today probably would have had them in there somewhere, right? Because they are a team with pedigree, they are a team with history in EU competitive FortNite, and they're a team that has shown that, you know, at LAN's in-person events, they can be successful. And so, you know, definitely kind of team I'd want to see make it to Globals, but again, need another game just like this one. They've been on the outside all day, it's really felt like, but again, that late push to try and surge their way in. They're not many points out, only a couple points in it. They need to have another one of these kind of games.
I know you're like a football fan, right, as well, Levin, and I want to talk about the comparisons between like relegation, but you've got teams right under there beneath you, so it's like both sides of the barrel. It's a strange juxtaposition of being at the bottom of that top 9. Let's take a look at Refsguard as well, Levin.
Yeah, look, and on the point of relegation, it's a brilliant point you make, Ian. When you are in a relegation battle, the motto, the thing that is always said is, you just have to get the points on the board. You can't worry about what anybody else is doing. It's not in your control. You can't do anything about it, right? If you are Lusher, you can't worry about what Janice is doing. It doesn't affect you. Get the points on the board. The same applies for Trip and Refs. They just have to get them points on the board. They are a team more than good enough of making it to Global Championships, right? You know, these guys have pedigree, they have experience, and I feel like this game that we saw from them just now, it's almost a repeat of a lot of the games we've seen. If I told you this was a clip of Trippin from game 2, you'd believe me. You would? It looks like I want to see them now get past that point, right, where we're seeing them scuffed in the back of the zone. They have to push past, get the points on the board.
This is crazy. Listen, one game could potentially separate you from a shot at winning the Global Championship. It all comes down to this. Game number 6 of the Last Chance Major. One last roll of the dice. Casters, Shayo Taka, lead us through it.
Appreciate you so much, Ian, and our wonderful analyst, of course. But Shayo, this is quite the predicament. I mean, if you are not in that top 3 currently on the leaderboards, there is only one game left to work with, and so many teams so close to overtaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's anyone's game at this point, and everyone who's kind of next to each other on the boards are next to each other in game as well, making the same type of fumbles here and there inside the zone. So this is where it's your time to clutch that ball, make it all the way across the line, and qualify for globals.
And look, it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but I know for a lot of these teams, that's what they're striving for. But we've got the battle bus ready to go. Game number 6. It's time for the last match.
One last chance to get towards globals. Everyone talks about if it was me in that spot, if I just had one more shot to take, if they just played that game again, they'd do something differently to get them to where they need to be. Well, this is the game where you get to prove that 100% for real.
It's also crazy when you think about it, because just like Levin mentioned, you can't think about what anybody else is doing. You have to focus exclusively on your own gameplay. And Giannis and Reason, certainly a team we've been keeping very close tabs on here today. They've finally managed to break their way into that top 9. But again, holding on to that positioning for teams in 4th through 9th is where things get a little bit more tricky.
Those definitely. You want to hold on, and you also have some teams that want to get all the way up and surpass that 9th place spot. Howley in trouble. Top 3 should hold for now from what I'm looking at. So they should be good, but they can hold on to play a little bit longer in this game if Howley's online like that. That's just crazy.
Not the first time today. Might not be the last either, though. We see Howley with a nice pop-off play here. Certainly feeling pretty good about that one based off the reaction of the player cam, and can't blame him, because again, when you're already in that top 3 position and you're just doing everything in your power to make sure you maintain it, it's always nice when you take fate into your own hands. And for FortNite, Moneymaker, they're dealing with the likes of Pumps. 1 knock already, but they still have to close it out. FortNite, Moneymaker, they know it's not going to be the easiest engagement in the world, but it is one that Moneymaker will successfully finish off those 2 elims with. So they will also continue to maintain their spot in the top 5.
They're looking good. They're looking fine. If I'm heading Vascom, I'm worried. I'm looking to see what's happening next. 198, they just need a little bit more to really break through and be in a safe spot to stay inside top 5. It feels like and looks like everyone else is looking good. I would say around 200, 205, maybe 210 points should be good compared to the rest of the board. You never know how crazy things get, though. Propsy with a few elims off spawn, one of them being Savages, fully confirmed. Got to tune in and see exactly what's happening on that side. These guys are pretty free at Naughty Nets. There's a bunch of other players too that are really looking at getting their spot up towards that top 9. Yep, go Paco, 11th place overall. But they're consistently struggling to stay in 10th and 11th. They have to make this an insane type of game that they haven't really played today at all to get towards that super top side, to get towards, you know, maybe a top 5, top 3 finish to get them inside that top 9.
We'll elaborate more on that in a second, because for right now, Refs, Trip, they're just trying to keep their hopes alive in the current early engagement here up against Astral. And Lazen, they've got to be careful. Refs and Trip don't want to find themselves getting elim this early on. Remember, they're currently in 15th place. They need a pretty big performance here if they want to escalate themselves into that top 9 of the leaderboards. And it starts right here with these two, making sure they don't get elimed by the likes of Astral. And Lizen instead is going to continue running through the Temple Vault. And it would appear as though Refs and Trip were actually able to incentivize the opposing duo to actually leave the area. It doesn't seem as though they want to stick around for much longer. And that's the other note here, Shio, is that some of these teams not getting as frisky early on is what we've seen.
Want to stick in for that placement. It's the biggest guarantee. Marine, though, 11th place. And this might just be it for him. It might be wraps. No globals for you if you can't get past this wall. Still being hunted down. 100 builds left after that. Yeah, it's over on Nakiru for the best 1v2 he could possibly have in his entire life. Going for it back and forth. Can't really find much. Has the match to make this work, but it's done in 11th. Their spot solidified. They can't do much now.
Heartbreaker instances. But that's the nature of the game, the nature of the Last Chance Major. And while it is unfortunate for the teams that don't find themselves inside of that top 9, for the teams that do, Shio, you have to remember, their work has really only just begun, because sure, you got your ticket punched to globals, but you're still in that lower bracket. You still got to work your way up.
So I want to make sure that the good games you play aren't just all finished today. They're not finished right now even. I mean, for Demon and Lucia, I mean, they can't really even focus on what Globals is going to look like. They got to make sure they get there first. 180. Definitely not going to be enough to finish you the whole way. Shots like that, though, consistently hit over the